like to talk with you today is about landfills. Now, let's ask this question. Who here knows what a tipping fee is? All right, so tipping fee is basically pretty simple. It's the cost per ton to take the waste and put it into a landfill. Pretty simple. And as you can see here, by going back to 2000, the rate is kind of steadily increasing. Now, let's look at the rate in Oregon. Our rates here are actually one of the lowest in the country. They're at around $35 per ton. But if we compare this to our neighbors on the north and south, in Washington and California, we can see there's quite a big difference, okay? It's about $75 a ton in our neighbor states, the tipping fees. Now I want to also now add this to the recycling issue. So I'm not sure if many of you have heard about the green wall. Anybody heard of the China green wall? Okay, I know you guys from the Lincoln City Sanitation have, but the green wall basically came into effect in around 2017, and China basically said, we're not going to take your recycling anymore. Most people don't realize that almost 90% of the recycling that come from the US ended up in China. And they said it's too contaminated, we can't use it, no more, not going to happen anymore. So what's happened is that now that's all stuck here, and now the rates have gone way up, $150 a ton now to deal with our recycling. And on top of that, you guys, you know, in Lincoln City, they've changed the recycling completely. Most of the plastics we can't even put in the bins anymore. So all this is now entering the landfills as well. What I'm going to show you next, we're going to talk about is the wastewater treatment. It's the sludge. So the wastewater treatment, folks, obviously you know what the sludge is. Sludge is basically that treated mixture that once it goes through the wastewater system, it's got to go somewhere. Before 2016, that was basically just getting spread out onto fields, locally fields. It wasn't the best idea, didn't work well environmentally, so that was done. So we've had to change things here in Lincoln City. And now the sludge is treated and it's now delivered to landfills. So it's actually adding to the landfill totals that we have here. And this has resulted in much higher costs. If you see going back to 2015, the budget was $100,000. In 2017, the city spent $260,000 to truck the waste to landfills. The cost is now, we budgeted this year, FY 2018, at $400,000. Now, if we're thinking about the pressures of the cost of landfill, if you look at what our neighbors are doing and what the pressures are, it's pretty understandable that the rates here are very likely to go up, and maybe even significantly. So we're looking, maybe even conservatively, at a cost of $600,000 by 2020 that it's going to cost to take the waste from the sludge to the landfill. There's more pressure, just in case that wasn't enough. There's the state of Oregon, and this 2050 Vision and Framework for Action. It's pretty simple. It's got a lot of words and a lot of paragraphs, but it's boiled down to simply this. The state wants less waste in landfills, and they're going to find ways to make that happen. Administratively, cost-wise, one way or the other. And obviously, it's the thing. Who doesn't want that? We want less waste in landfills, for sure. But this could have significant impact on the fees that you pay for your water and garbage. You know, it affects everybody. So that's why we're looking at the solutions. And this is why SUEZ is here. We're here to provide the solution. For us, the solution, and the best solution, is the anaerobic digester. And particularly what we're focused on is what we call the co-digesting anaerobic digester. So what that basically does, it takes sludge from wastewater treatment plants, mixes it with organic waste, the wastes that we have that are going to landfill, and together, it combines it together, and here we get valuable products. We get natural gas from methane that we turn into energy, and then we get fertilizer, liquid fertilizer, which is, it's liquid gold. It is probably the best liquid fertilizer you can get. And then finally, we have a patented process, it's an A4 process that takes the solids, because obviously there's some solids left behind, but it actually turns them into soil amendments that are good enough to put on organic farms. So we have valuable commodities that come out of this process. One of the other great things about this co-digestion process is that what the sludge does, it's like acts as an enhancer for producing methane. So if we look here at just the conventional wastewater treatment, what that does, there's a net loss. So the amount of energy you produce just from wastewater compared to what it costs, it doesn't cover it. And then the same for just if you take the organics on their own. But if we add the sludge to our organic waste, we get a net positive over and above what it costs to run the wastewater treatment plant. So it's actually very beneficial. Now looking at the waste stream that we have right here in Lincoln City, you can see that 53% of the waste we have here is organic waste. That's more than half the waste. Now take out the recyclables, that other chunk in there, and basically you've just got a little wedge left there that goes to landfill. Now imagine if we can take most of this organic waste and divert it and make something positive out of it. It's not a bad idea. You know, you're probably not going to get all of it, but rates in some cities for organic waste collection are as high as 75%. So even take 75% of that organics plus our recycling, we're still really minimizing our impacts of what we're sending to landfill. And this brings us to our feedstocks, which is, anybody can tell me what a feedstock is? Good, nobody today, excellent. So I'm the expert. So feedstock is actually pretty simple. It's just the things that are going to go into the anaerobic digester. It's the food for the anaerobic digester. So it's simple, it's feed, so it's food for the anaerobic digester. And so obviously we've got the one from the wastewater treatment plant and the other is from our organic matter. So the organic matter is what we're concerned about. The wastewater treatment stuff is pretty simple, comes out of a pipe, bam, it's ready to go. Right now in Lincoln City we don't have any programs to deal with organic waste at all. So we're going to have to create them from scratch. It's basically split into two groups. One is residential and the other is commercial. So looking at the residential part first, you can see by the growth of residential curbside pickup that there's a lot of programs that are out there. There's excellent studies, there's great pilot programs. So it's been studied and it's happening for sure right now. So we don't have to reinvent the wheel and we can make systems that work. Austin right now has a really good system. They have like in your house, your little container that you take, and then basically you just take it out and put it in a special, I don't know if any of you have been to Portland and seen, there's just the organic waste bin, and you put your yard waste, you put anything organic in there, pizza boxes even, and in it goes with compostables and with your food waste, and the city just comes and picks it up, and it's just on the traditional route, so we don't have to add any new routes or do anything special from the waste collection standpoint. It's basically just the same. So that's set up. Now, apartments are also a big deal because a lot of times, you know, that's a fair amount of waste is generated there. So one of the issues with apartments is you can't really store organic waste. So there's a company called BioBag, and they have these compostable bags specifically designed for apartments. So you've got your tabletop and a slightly bigger one, and now you put it in the BioBag, you twist it up, you put it away, it can sit for a week, nothing happens, and then everybody in the apartment collects it, and there's a big collection thing downstairs. Same thing, it's on the route, everybody picks it up. Now what's amazing about this is that there was a huge difference. You can see down here, this was before the BioBag was introduced and the collection, under 20%. They were able to bring rates up in this apartment complex to over 65%, to 65% with the right kind of program. So again, giant diversion of the organic waste. So the commercial, it's a little trickier because we've got multiple places where it's got to come from, our organic waste. You've got places like restaurants, bars, resorts, coffee shops. You've got other businesses like the lawn maintenance people, and you've got you know, even you can even get feedstock from the milling lumber yards. So there's lots out there, but you know, it's all coming from different directions. So it's a lot bigger of a program to have to get together. But the good news is one of our neighbors is actually doing it. Eugene, the city of Eugene, has implemented a program, the Love Food, Not Waste. And they've collected over 10,000 tons of commercial organic waste in the last 3 years. And it's not even fully piloted the program. So it's proven, and there's a way to do it. You know, it's just going to take, you know, the community and the businesses, everybody getting together to get it right. So the next thing we'll talk about is where to put this. You know, it's not the prettiest thing, an anaerobic digester site, but we feel that the best location is going to be at the existing wastewater treatment plant, because for the cost, you can just feed the sludge directly in, and guess where it's located? If we look down here, this is the transfer station right at the bottom here. So the waste is already coming here. So we're at existing routes. We're, you know, a quarter mile away from there. So it really will help and cut down costs. The other thing about this, if we put it on the city site there, is cost. The capital cost, you're not going to need to buy more land. You can just pay for the anaerobic digester itself. So, benefits is what we'll talk about here. We've got our feedstocks, we've got our anaerobic digester, we're making this amazing biogas, turning it into something valuable. It's going to benefit the city. First, it's going to benefit the waste hauler, and lastly, it's going to benefit the environment. I'll talk about each of these individually. So, from the city's perspective, there's a savings from power generation, because the power that's developed here is going to be enough to completely pay for the wastewater treatment plant and probably have something left over. Our next savings is going to be, as we saw earlier, the sludge. Okay, 2020, our estimate, $600,000. That's not going to have to be paid by the city. And our last bit of financial good news is the income that we can get from the extra energy and from the fertilizers and land amendments. So we've got quite a good deal of savings. As far as the cost of the anaerobic digester itself, we've estimated that it should run between $5 and $6 million to build it at the site. And so if we amortize that over 10 years, add some fees and stuff, even on the high end, you're looking at $500,000 a year over 10 years. So in the end, it really looks like we're going to have a decent benefit out of this. $500,000 a year sounds like a pretty decent amount of money that we could save and do some other good things. Now, from the perspective of the wastewater treatment and the waste customers, you know, we want happy customers. Now, you're the customers. Imagine if your bill kept going up and up. But if we could find a way to stabilize your water and garbage bills, which this will do, we're going to have some happy customers for sure. Last but not least, we want to talk about the benefits to the environment, because we're all obviously concerned about the environment. We talk about it all the time, but this can really make an impact, because what we're doing is all that waste that's going into the landfill, it sits there, and what does it produce? It produces methane. And I'm sure some of you are aware, but methane is much worse than carbon dioxide. We're trying to mitigate it. There's all kinds of, it's one of the things that you hear about over and over again. Methane is much worse than carbon dioxide, like 20 times more potent when it goes and creates greenhouse gases. So that's a big factor that we're mitigating. The other thing that we're doing is all these trucks that will take off the road, all this tons and tons of waste. 32,000 tons of waste was produced just this year in the city. We take 32,000 tons, we don't have to haul anymore. Well, not that much, but take 2/3 of that, and you can see, you can stop a lot of emissions from there. So, that's basically my presentation for today.